So, welcome to an episode of Java with Josh Freestyle because I ran out of creative ideas. I do a lot. So, anywhere from I can help as a realtor, I can help with single family residential transactions, all the way through commercial leasing development. I have 18 apartments across sort of the north side of the city in Kenmore. Um, I'm one of the co-founders of Obsidian Development Group. I do a lot of work in Nashville, helping smaller developers sort of help them with various aspects of a development project that may have gone awry. They're just not getting the results that they need. They've got nervous investors. They on the front end, they just kind of want to know what are the possibilities of this piece of property, and we'll see if it works. Um, it's really all over the board because I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So I said I'll check the box next to yeah everything. All the different facets of real estate are all really interesting. How do you create those little infill opportunities to help solidify a sense of place in a neighborhood or a community, all the way to how do you start from the ground up and how do you make that space cool? How does it work? How do you find people and vendors and contractors? And how do you get this whole ecosystem created? I think it's fascinating. Most people may have interest in one aspect or another, but I like puzzles. So real estate is just a giant puzzle. How do you put all these pieces together? So, if I say, okay, we need like in Tetris, we need a, a blue square with four pieces in it. And all you have is long, six length red ones. That's like, well, okay, how do we make the best of that and fill the space? How do we put this puzzle piece together? Um, I find that interesting. I find it fascinating. I go to different places here around town, across the country, and go, okay, what are the puzzle pieces that they use? How do they put it together? Um, and how is it working? Is it effective? Are the tenant spaces occupied? Are the residential buildings occupied? Is it creating a lively place? Or does it look really cool on Instagram photos, but no one would actually be there? I think it's interesting. So I got on the wrong bus in undergrad for a tour. So because of a work conflict, I I was going to be the coolest social studies teacher in 7th and 8th grade that was out there, except I don't really like kids, and I don't really like classrooms, and I don't really like authority figures. So there was some flaws in my methodology, but, because of a work conflict, I had to take a different tour from a history class I was in called The History of Buffalo, and the professor was a guy named Mark Goldman. Yeah, that's right. So I ended up taking a bus tour on the history of Buffalo with Mark Goldman. So it was a life-changing experience. I was became fascinated with how things were put together in the way that they were. I had, been at the history museum, been downtown, been to all these places, and I'm like, it's really cool. I'm old enough to remember when the Market Arcade building was just a giant hole in the ground for a decade. And so kind of seeing these places, how they've transformed, the history, and I was like, this is really interesting. And I ended up hopping on that tour bus with Mark Goldman and some planning graduate students from UB. And I went, oh, there's other people that like this too? Oh, okay. So pretty sure I got an A in that class. I don't remember, it was a couple years ago. Got an A in that class, really liked it. Changed my major from social studies to urban planning because I'm like, I probably should learn the nuts and bolts and some of the basics and just sort of figure this out. Got it. Graduated. Really cool. Very from Buff State. Go Bengals. Go Bengals. Um, and had a really good exposure to different elements of planning, of urban planning, from like placemaking in cities to just basic nuts and bolts, um, and a lot of environmental stuff because this is Western New York. You can't walk 10 feet without tripping over something that used to be an industrial site. Local government outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, through the Great Recession, just really had some unique opportunities to work on brownfields and water sewer grants and infrastructure and housing, just basically everything that was out there to try and, keep the lights on and help local communities learn more about people and the unique culture, the history of sort of the textile belt that runs through the South. I was like, this is really interesting stuff and how it all kind of put together. And then moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and worked in a place called Franklin. And they were like, hey, we're going to make you our current planner. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but that sounds fun. And I currently work at a Barnes and Noble bookstore. So, yes, please, let's try that. So I got to work with developers and landscape architects and engineers and developers that were spending lots of money, tons of money to create spaces and opportunities and buildings and really learned about even more about the nuts and bolts of what goes into it. But how you divide up space, how you restore historic buildings and create opportunities and how all of these puzzle pieces fit and work together utilizing some of what I knew, but just like a giant sponge absorbing it all, I went, "Oh, I like this." So eventually, then took a management position with a different city. Um, Loved it, but my disdain for authority and rules really, really limits your career mobility inside a very structured organization. So I found out I was a little bit more effective if I played outside of the rules, which you can't do as an employee. There's a whole department called HR that kind of doesn't want you to do that. So I went out on my own and started working with different developers on just tasks that they could do, but it was something they didn't enjoy doing. They would rather work with a bank or find another site or do these other things rather than detailed zoning research. Who's excited by that? A little bit, a little bit. I kind of like it because I'm like, okay, what do we want to create, and is this the framework? Does this framework support your vision, where you want to go with it? Just kind of working through that, and then figuring out how to run my own business because I'm used to just giving the answers away for free. And if you talk to me and we have a cup of coffee, I'm probably going to give you 99% of the solution. I'm just fair warning. I'm a terrible business owner in that aspect. But I'm like, it's more interesting to see what we can do, where it can go. Um, and there's been a lot of different things we've run across that I'm like, okay, this is temporarily annoying, but let's see if there's a path. Let's see if there's a solution that we can figure out with what this current problem is. We have a pre-Mississippian Native American cultural adjacent to a former burial ground from the 1300s on a 5-acre site in North Nashville. That was a very unique one. I was like, I have not run into this one before, but I've worked with um, getting phase one archaeological surveys done for larger economic development sites. So I understand, okay, we want to preserve and protect and understand if there's something on this property. We want to respect the culture and the heritage of the people that were here, even if they've been gone in for 600 years, astronomical number to say, but we want to understand what's there. But based on where we are in this development's life cycle, is there a better place for us to conduct that phase one archaeological study, where it's going to be easier to do, so that sitting down, having that conversation, working with an archaeologist, an archaeological team of, hey, these are different options. Let's lay them out, put all the cards on the table. We all want to achieve the same thing at the end. Well, I say we all want to achieve different things at the end, but is there a way that every aspect or every piece, every person, every stakeholder can get some level of satisfaction from the project? If we, if it goes one way, if it goes another way, we'll have to figure it out. But based on where we are, it's a heavily wooded site. There's a lot of debris from being in the middle of a developed neighborhood for the past 40 years. These are very real things. So, sort of figuring out staging wise, where does conducting that phase one archaeological study make more sense than where we are now, where we would have to go through, clear cut the site, delay the project 9 months or more before we're even allowed under the regulations to do and build the homes that we want, my client wants. So just kind of understanding these different pieces. Brownfield sites. I learned more about textiles than anyone outside of the industry should probably know on, the rise and the fall and the rise of synthetics and the different dyes and dry cleaning solvents and TCE and TCP and wastewater treatment on whether it was a concrete line basin, whether it was a clay basin, how they treated the machinery. There was a lot of these sites we were going to that the hotspots we were finding wasn't even the lagoon, for the wastewater treatment plant like you would expect, or by the chemical tanks, because those would have been lined, those would have been regulated. But it was where the guy on the floor would haul out the machine, spray it down with the dry cleaning solvent because it's what they had so much of. It was cheaper than water, and it would just go onto the ground and then they'd by the door, and then they'd wheel the machine back. So identifying where the what the main contaminant was, where it was, and how that impacted the redevelopment of the site, reuse of the site. A lot of these plants, a lot of these places were in rural communities, so a lot of the neighbors were on well water. So you'd have to find out, is there the ability to close these individual wells and hook these people up to a more centralized water system to make sure they have safe drinking water? It it's these weird little things that you get involved in and go, well, I turn on my faucet. I live in the city. I turn on the faucet. My water should be clean in theory, but in rural communities where you have potential dry solvents or contaminants in your well that can't just be put through a charcoal filter. So it these projects really morph when you had to pull from different disciplines to try and achieve the the better goal, which is put that building back into productive reuse and get these people safe drinking water. Yes, because actually I did have a situation where I was working with just a single family buyer, beautiful house out in South Wales, and the his well failed the test. It failed the chlorination test. And it was so he became immediately concerned that there was something wrong with the well, with the water. So I was able to pull from a lot of studies that have been done about that whole drainage basin, identifying potential sources of contamination, industrial plants, discharges, whatever it might be, identifying all those things and being able to explain to him. And he's an attorney, so you understand the legalese of it. But I was like, this is this, this is this, this is this. It really is just an isolated problem with the water treatment system that serves this house. It's not a wider spread issue. The land use is upstream from you. They don't discharge the kind of chemicals or kind of contaminants that you should be long term worried about. Um, and it's unlikely to it's likely to stay that way because the land use is above you, mostly agricultural. There really isn't any heavy industrial on this on this particular watershed. There isn't the sewer capacity. There isn't the demand for that kind of industrial space in Western New York anymore. So I was able to kind of put him at ease over this property about this minor issue that we're facing. It really was just a technician had to come in and clean out one tube and have it go to another thing, and it passed the test. But it was a minor issue, but it was also not. He was concerned, but he had bigger concerns of just this immediate thing. But I was able to use my background and my experience to sort of help put him at ease that it was an isolated issue and that build wanting to stay on this property for the long term, for the duration of your life, raise a family, bring grandkids here, that this is lower risk than say something else of, you've got industrial property zoned and known pollutants from a chemical plant a mile up the stream from you. I would be I would have a higher level of concern than I did in this particular case. It's my first go at development on my own. So I understand and I know what I know. Uh, but what I don't know is taking all this front end stuff, all these permits, and actually building it. Um, I'm on the board of directors for Habitat for Humanity in Sumner County, so I understand some of it, but had never actually done it before. So I understand the concepts, I understand it, but I'm not I'm not a construction guy. I'm not very helpful when it actually comes time to do finish work. Um, so that's where I really needed partners to be able to help that other aspect of it. And the fact that we all have outside income sources, so we don't immediately need to start pulling cash from the company, allows us to be more flexible. If we make a mistake and it costs us a couple $100, it isn't going to bankrupt us. We can we can still learn and grow together. And there's things that I'm learning from those guys that I'm like, I had no idea that's how you did this, but that's phenomenal. And that's really where good partners come into play. Front end, so take a look at a site. What can we do? What are the limitations? Keeping that ball rolling all the way through um, permitting. So it's like a Venn diagram. We all have our sort of circles, and there's places where all the circles overlap. So there's things that I'm working on with Colby. There's things that I'm working on with. Well, this will come out after we introduce Nathan, so it's cool. There's things that I'm working on with Nathan on, the ground and how everything works together. There's things I'm working on with Riley um, that overlap because that is this design feature that we wanna do is gonna impact this, and, if we draw really work with an architect and draw really cool, innovative things with this cool feature or that new thing, that's gonna be a pain in the ass. I can't say that. That's gonna be a real pain to build. That's gonna cost extra time and labor and material, and just having to teach other people this unique thing is that can we do it? Yes. But is it going to be effective for us if it's a one-off thing? Like, is this something that's gonna be a standard feature, like 2 by 6 walls and rock wool insulation, or is this just a one-off unique thing that just looks cool? Just looks cool isn't scalable, but things that actually provide value back to the eventual homeowner is far more effective. It's something that we can put into standard practice. They're the same. Partners. Partners are your greatest asset, and working very closely with 3 other people with differing opinions, differing work styles, different communication methods, different backgrounds, different experience takes some time and sometimes you just have to sort of stop the group chat for a minute, put down your phone, kind of take a deep breath and go, okay, what I think he meant is this. I just, the way it was communicated was different. It's a constant thing. There's always that sort of whatever you do, there's always that nagging doubt of, um, yeah, you know what? You can't do this. You should just go get a desk job, spend the rest of your life working for someone else, making their dreams come true. And maybe you'll live long enough to retire. And honestly, that's not really a good way to live. But you do have to stop. You do have to stop and reflect. What is it that I want to do? Is this getting me to where I want to go? In every aspect of every business. Sometimes you have to stop the conversation and go, all right, we need to refocus. We need a moment. Sometimes in our other professional lives, we have to stop and take a moment and go, okay, I'm hearing this. What I think I'm hearing is this. Let me just stop, reflect, and ask a question back of, you said this. Did you mean this? Or when you said this, are you implying I'm hearing this? Have the goals shifted? Has the project shifted? Are what we doing? Am I still needed on this project? If I suddenly, instead of doing videos, wanted to go with beautiful still photography of flowers, you might go, "That's great. That's not what I do. I can probably get you some great pictures of flowers, but I'm not your guy." So, sometimes, do you have to fire yourself from a project? You can make that call, especially being self-employed. You can go, I know I see where you wanna go. Originally, we were doing this, now you wanna go do this. That's great. So, I'm gonna fire myself from the situation. Um, we're gonna go our separate ways. I'm gonna, pursue this. You keep pursuing that. We'll stay in touch, and should our paths ever cross again, great. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Java with Josh. This one was a very freestyle episode. I hope you got some use out of it. Feel free to schedule your own Java with Josh. We can do it on camera, we can do it in person. I'm good either way.